Now, we see women again playing a role in the March to Versailles. Basically, one of the reasons why the French Revolution may happen, according to some historians, is that there's this very bad drought the year before, the winter before. And so in the summer of 1789, there is a food shortage. And so the prices of food is way up because there's a shortage of items. So a lot of demand for very little goods means high prices. And so therefore, these high food prices are going to get people very angry. And they've heard stories about the large amount of food that's being stored at Versailles. And so in the late summer of 1789, there is a large mob that marches to Versailles from Paris. And this will largely be led by, sans-culotte women, so urban, poor women who want bread. And they will demand bread. But their significance is that they demand that the king return to Paris. The king and his family must return to Paris and live amongst the people, and therefore leave their palace at Versailles. Now, why is this important? For a couple reasons. A, the king now will be surrounded by Paris, and the National Assembly will follow him into Paris. And so the National Assembly, this legislature, will likewise be surrounded by the people of Paris. And what we see is that in Paris, there's a lot of urban poor, and so the sans-culottes will have a much larger role in the direction the revolution will take than if the revolutionary government was not in a place where there were many sans-culottes. If the revolutionary government stays at Versailles, then it doesn't feel the pressure to accommodate the interests and demands of the sans-culottes that it feels in Paris. Question? Okay, sorry. Write down questions. Okay, now one of the big reforms that's made in late 1789 or 1790, I think, is the civil constitution of the clergy. This is often viewed as a big mistake by the National Assembly. Basically, it ends the independence of the Catholic Church. Now, freedom of religion had already been proclaimed in the Declaration of the Rights of Man. But the civil constitution of the clergy takes all churches and makes them branches of the government. So the government will pay the salaries of priests, but also the government will choose who gets to preach. The government, therefore, will control the church, not the Pope. And all priests will have to take an oath of loyalty to the government. Now, as you can imagine, this is a dramatic change from the historic feudal rights of the church to be independent. This is, breaking what we think in the U.S. as the separation between church and state. The Pope and the church hierarchy is no longer in charge, and the church then, therefore, in a way, would be censored in what it could say in the pulpit by the government that pays the pastors and regulates who gets promoted and not. So what this does is it divides Catholics in France, and it certainly divides the clergy. Many clergy accept the civil constitution and therefore take the oath of loyalty to the government. They become known as the constitutional clergy because they abide by this clerical constitution. But on the other hand, there's going to be many clerics, many members of the clergy that reject this control of the church. The Pope obviously denounces it. And so these people will not take the oath, and therefore will continue to practice and preach underground. And what we mean by underground is we mean illegally. And so they'll be known as the refractory clergy. Refractory, R-E-F-R-A-C-T-O-R-Y. So the refractory clergy are those that will reject the civil constitution of the clergy. They'll reject the revolutionary government. And so they'll become part of the counter-revolution many refractory clergy will be included amongst those that are killed. For example, in the summer of 1792, when the revolution takes a more radical turn, and of course, at the height of the Reign of Terror. Many priests will be suspected of being counter-revolutionaries and will be executed. Okay, so the Constitution of 1791 then is issued. This Constitution is going to create a limited constitutional monarchy. The king will still be the king, but Louis XVI will be limited by the legislature. And so the National Assembly which calls itself the National Constituent Assembly, because now it's writing a constitution. It will dissolve after issuing this constitution, and elections will be held for a new legislative assembly. And so this legislative assembly will be the legislature making the laws. The king will be limited in his power. Now, many nobles will flee France because of the loss of their rights and fear of oppression, and so these nobles will be known as émigrés. And many of them will flee to other countries where they will demand that those countries and the kings in those countries do something to stop the revolution. And this is especially true in Austria, where the Austrian king is the brother of the French queen, Marie Antoinette, because remember, she was an Austrian princess. So there will be a direct familial connection. Now, the king, Louis XVI, and Marie Antoinette will not like these changes, and so they will try to escape in the flight to Varennes. It's called the flight to Varennes because Varennes is where they're captured. And they're captured because I think this road attendant notices Louis' image from a coin and recognizes Louis as a result. So they're captured, and this is very bad for the Legislative Assembly, because the Legislative Assembly makes the laws. The king is supposed to be in charge of the government, and, you know, this is a limited constitutional monarchy according to the Constitution, but the king doesn't like it. And so the king's not going to like it, these nobles are not liking it, and also, on the other hand, there's going to be a lot of pressure in the cities amongst these radicals, these sans-culottes, and these radicals are also going to be putting pressure on the Legislative Assembly for more reform. Many sans-culottes will want to get rid of the king. Many sans-culottes will want to bring about more change, some thinking that the government should do more to bring down bread prices and protect workers and those that dwell in cities, and reduce inequality in society.